I'm going to tell you about a lady who is was one of my favorite people ever. My grandma. She was the queen of ingenuity. Um, she literally did wear combat boots. You always as a kid, you go, oh, and your grandma wears combat boots. And I would just say, well, yeah, she does. Um, one of my favorite pictures of her is standing there. Her hair is everywhere because she was not a fashion conscious lady. Yeah, no. She's wearing orange pedal pushers. And for all of you who aren't familiar with the phrase pedal pushers, think little below the knee capri pants, not quite as long as capri pants, okay? A pair of laced-up brown combat boots, a blue plaid sleeveless blouse, okay? And, oh, sexy. Yeah. I am telling you. And she was just happy as a clam. She took care of me for quite a number of years when I was a itty-bitty. Mom and Dad were busy working, and they couldn't afford a babysitter, so Grandma and Grandpa took care of me. This lady was the one who taught me my numbers by teaching me how to play cards. She taught me how to swear like a sailor by the time I was 3. Oh, man. When I was a little kid, we had these 2-piece pajama things. They were feety pajamas, but they snapped the 2 pieces all the way around the waist. And Mom and Dad tell a story about that I had to go potty really bad one morning, and I was standing at the end of their bed while they were still sleeping, trying to unsnap the back of these pajamas, and I couldn't quite reach them. And I finally got really pissed off and said, "These goddamn pants!" Another time, we were driving down the road. We lived on a dirt road in Bemidji, Minnesota. This is northern Minnesota. And just out of the back seat, I'm standing in the back seat, by the way. No car seats back then. Just slam on the brakes and I'm in the front. My dad and Mom hear this little angelic voice go, "Who the hell you suppose put all these goddamn rocks on this road?" I mean, I love my grandma. So anyway, she taught me a lot, other than the swearing part. She taught me how to make something out of nothing. She taught me to love to bake. That's where I learned how to love the smell of fresh bread. It's where I learned how to eat nothing but fresh home-baked beans and fresh buns out of the oven for dinner, and you squirt tons of ketchup on them, and they're awesome. I can't make them because there was no recipe, but man, I crave them. Anyway, I wore tons of clothes that this lady would stop. Her and Grandpa drove everywhere. They loved to drive. They'd be going down the road 70 miles an hour, and she'd see a pile of something, and they would slam on the brakes, pull over, and he would back down the highway. It wasn't as bad then because it wasn't like the freeways now, but they would back down the highway. And I have to tell you that my husband still owns a sweatshirt from the Bowman, North Dakota track team that she brought to us. She would bring home clothes, gloves, shoes, you name it. And he still wears it when he goes out to do yard work. I mean, these things, you couldn't kill him. She'd clean them up, and I would be the proud owner of somebody's old something. She would come to visit us, and we lived in Minot for a time, and they were still in Bemidji, so they'd make the 6-hour drive. And while she was there, she would collect all of my sister's used bubblegum. My sister left her bubblegum everywhere. On the table, on the bedpost, in the ashtrays, you name it. And Grandma would go around, and when she left, she had this little collection. Actually, it was a big collection of bubblegum. And I always wondered what she did with it. I found out what she did with it. She'd go home, she she would chew the bubble gum, which she figured it was no big deal because we're all family, right? I mean, you know, you're swapping spit with your grandkid, it's no big deal. So she would chew the bubble gum, then she would mix it with Elmer's glue and sand, and we would patch the roof. We would patch a bucket. We would patch a metal pail that had a hole or a leak. She could do wonders with bubble gum and sand and glue. But I have to tell you that this lady inspired me because I'm sorry. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was in the bedroom one day pulling up the blinds, you know, to let the light in, and the blind fell down. It just cracked and fell down. And we weren't really in the financial position to afford to buy a new blind at that point. So I got to looking at this blind and I thought, what would Tun do? My grandma's name was Ruth, but everybody called her Tun. Not sure why. Nobody in her family had regular names. They were Bozo and Fritz and Snooky and Snooky, seriously, before Snooky was a thing. So I got to looking at it and I thought, you know, I just need something to hold this together. It wasn't totally broken, just cracked through. So I did Grandma proud. I got my glue gun and I got 2 of those flat plastic bread tie things, or the things that hold your potato bag shut. Wait, no, hear me out here. So then we got the hot glue on there and we put that flat plastic tie on there on each side of the thing. That thing lasted 2 more years before I had to go buy a new blind, right? Ingenuity. Ingenuity. Thank you.